Rodney, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
And it's really special to have you here. Monster Beverage Corporation has won more accolades from the Beverage Forum than anyone. You've won 2 Beverage Small Company of the Year awards. You've won 1 Beverage Forum Large Company of the Year awards. And of course, you and Hilton, your partner in crime, were awarded our highest honor, the Beverage Forum Lifetime Achievement Award. Now, this is your 3rd time. We get to know each other, your 3rd time on stage with us in this conference. Now, none of that's ever been done before, so congratulations on that. And it's great to have you back with us, and both you, and give my best to Hilton. But before beginning, I have to caution everybody. Next week, Monster will be reporting its earnings, so we have to be very cautious with that in mind, as a very important caution. So I'd like to start first, Rodney, by examining what is happening in the U.S. energy drink market. And then take a look at the international marketplace, and we'll kind of drill down to both of them. Now, after advancing in very high single digits to low double digits for more than a decade, the U.S. energy drink market slowed a little bit last year and is up, end of the year, up mid-single digits. This year, in the measured channels, again, it appears to be slowing down, especially in the important convenience channel. Is there a slowdown, or what is happening with the category?
We've also been somewhat puzzled as to why the slowdown has been more marked in the convenience channel as opposed to the other channels. But one of the things that we've also noticed is that, in the first few months of this year, we didn't repeat some of the innovation we introduced last year. And if you take that probably is something that actually counts and accounts for about a couple of percent of sales in the convenience category. Also, as you know, and we've announced, we've had some capacity problems and production problems in getting enough capacity for our retort products, which is Java Monster and Muscle Monster. Those products were growing really well and have been for many years, but were growing the comparable quarter last year. So we had some shortages this year. So again, if you take that into account, that probably accounts for another, probably almost a point about. So you've got almost 3 points of difference just in those issues attributable to our own products, but insofar as it relates to the category.
Is it picking up everything? Were there other channels that may be impacting convenience?
I think that there's been a channel switch as well. Again, that's one of the things we've not been able to put our fingers on. But there is a channel shift, and to stores, for example, value stores, home improvement stores, mass vending, online purchases as well. So there has been a swing, and we think that is taking away from some of the sales in the convenience channel.
Okay. But, consumers buy brands, not products. And I've seen this, and when a consumer tattoos the Monster claw on their body, I think that's a total identification with your brand. You've used extreme sports, motocross, et cetera, in your marketing. How would you describe your target consumer, and how has that changed over time, Rodney?
Monster's a lifestyle brand. It's very much an edgy, aggressive, authentic, in-your-face brand. That's what we've positioned it as. The primary target consumer has always been an 18 to 34 adult, primarily male. So the challenge for us to try and obviously expand the sales and the brand is to try and expand that demographic, to obviously bring out products that will be more attractive to female consumers, and also to try and obviously extend the age demographic to the older consumers. The brand's been around for nearly 15 years now.
I know.
So, as our consumer base has aged, we have seen an increasing migration of our consumers into the 34 to 50 age group as well now. But again, we need to try and focus on how do we broaden that consumer. And we think products like Hydro and Ultra will help us do that. The attractive thing for us in the energy category is that we really have a very small or very low market penetration. We estimate, and it's not an accurate estimate, but our own estimate is internally is about 18% penetration in the market for energy products.
Is that among younger consumers or the whole total?
The whole market. So we just believe that when you take other products who have penetrations in the 70 and 80% levels, there is a lot of runway still for the energy category, provided obviously we can expand our product offering so that we can actually make it more attractive to a broader audience of consumers.
Is that, I know you at your annual meeting you introduced a program with Tiger Woods and NASCAR. What were you aiming to try to do there, and what's happening there?
You know, our traditional sports have been are clearly more focused, and they don't have as a broad an appeal. Again, so as part of our strategy to try and broaden our consumer base for our own products and for the energy category, we obviously looked at how do we do that and how do we address some mainstream sports. We've always been pretty much a motor brand. So if you look at our extreme sports, even our extreme sports are focused on motorcycles and truck racing, etc. So we felt that the demographic for the mainstream motor consumer for NASCAR was a much closer match for us than some of the other mainstream sports. So we made the decision to go into NASCAR to broaden that consumer demographic. It was sort of a similar reasoning with Tiger Woods, who's an icon.
Absolutely.
Everybody knows him. But in that case, we also looked at addressing not only our consumer, but our distribution partners. And how do we leverage somebody like Tiger Woods to really motivate some of our distribution partners around the world in the Coke bottling system. And so there are different audiences for why you do certain types of sponsorships.
Mm-hmm. Leading, you talked about the Coca-Cola bottlers. When we chatted 2 years ago, your strategic alignment with Coca-Cola had just been announced. It's now 2 years later. What have been the key benefits you expected from this arrangement, and have they materialized?
Well, you know, the key for us in the Coke transaction was really being able to secure international distribution. That was really the key. We had some international distribution, but we felt that in order to really be a truly international brand, we needed to have a distribution partner with the team and the reach that could do that for us. And so I think that that's been largely accomplished. We've pretty much transitioned most of the countries, I would say the bigger countries in the world. If you take, say, our EMA division, we've probably transitioned. We were in about 10 odd countries before. We've transitioned about 50 countries since the deal was done, and we probably have about 10 or so to go, and they're smaller countries. So we've really pretty much achieved that. And as you know, we've recently launched in Nigeria. We've recently launched now in China. So there's a lot of this that has really been positive for us, and that's, I think, the main benefit. And that's a long-term benefit. That's just it's an ongoing work to work through the system and to eventually launch our products, you know, launching one or two at a time, and then actually, obviously, we have the very large runway of products. So for a long time to come, I think we'll be able to have additional products that go into the distribution system internationally.
Are there any, I mean, you've appreciated some of the early benefits with Coke. Are there any other things you're looking to capture from the Coca-Cola bottling network that you haven't captured?
I think that we have good opportunities. Yeah. I mean, you take things that are outside of the channel, sort of our mutant product here. Mm-hmm. And I think there we put our heads together and our focus, I mean, there is an opportunity for both of us to proceed and to launch, go forward with that brand in the market. So there are opportunities in different areas.
You started to talk about your product lines. Your core Monster family did well last year, up in the high single digits in measured channels. Can you tell us in the measured channels how is it doing, or what can you express about that?
Well, you know, in measured channels, I think the core product is pretty stable. Mm-hmm. What we've seen is some nice increases in our Ultra line. The Rehab line was sort of a little negative last year, but it has returned to growth this year. You know, so we actually believe that the Ultra line is really the line that's really been good for us. We believe that once we get back into production and have sufficient inventory of our Java Monster products, those will also continue to grow because they were on a good growth trajectory until we ended up with facing some shortages in product.
What's happening with that shortage situation? I know it's retort production. Is it just limited, or when is it going to get back online?
We believe, we've made arrangements, alternative arrangements, so we believe it pretty much will be online and we'll have sufficient production by mid-year. It'll take a couple more months to actually get that production through onto shelves. So we're looking for a third quarter to get back to a normalized production for our
Will that
product.
be okay going forward with the retort? Or?
We believe so. We've secured again, but again, there is limited production, so we've made arrangements to secure additional production. We also have had sort of plans to launch Cafe Monster this year, but in the light of that, that's actually got deferred somewhat. So we'll need to, obviously, once we get that production right, we'll have to build up some inventory of Cafe Monster before we launch. So we're looking at probably launching Cafe Monster at the end of the year, maybe even beginning of 2018. We'll see what the production holds for us.
You acquired Full Throttle and NOS from the Coke system in your transaction. What is their role? I know they're very profitable. They're concentrated. How do you view them? And I think they're doing very well.
The two brands were interesting because they had sort of different positioning, and NOS was a brand where we took it. It had, we believe, the individual single NOS SKU was the 5th or 6th best-selling SKU in the energy category. So the actual brand was doing quite nicely. So we've taken steps to reposition the brand. We've redone the packaging. We've introduced a new flavor. We've actually aligned ourselves with Kyle Busch, and we've introduced a product called Rowdy, which is his nickname. And it's really a motor brand. We felt that initially the brand had gone a little bit out of its sphere. It is a motor brand. That's what NOS stands for. But yet they were sponsoring UFC and a couple of other things. So we sort of brought it back to its core, to motorsport. And we think that it's got good products, and good flavors, and it's doing well. And we introduced we sort of discontinued that bottle. They had that unusual shape, 22-ounce bottle, plastic bottle, and we put it into a 24-ounce resealable can. And so we did that at the beginning of last year, and that's really been doing well. So the NOS brand in this year, up to date, if you look at the Nielsen numbers, is up pretty close to 10%. So that's doing nicely. The Full Throttle brand struggled a little bit. That's been down a little bit, but again, we've taken steps to completely revamp the product line. We've redone the packaging. We're introducing a new flavor. We're repositioning it and launching it. And so we're pretty excited that this time we'll actually have a really nice product in the Full Throttle brand. The Full Throttle brand we're probably going to promote more as a fighter brand, whereas NOS is still a premium brand at the traditional pricing, just focused on a different consumer.
One of the great hallmarks of the Monster Beverage Company has been its highly successful innovation process, which you're involved with daily. You've been a leader in segmenting the energy drink market from low-calorie products to coffee energy drinks, protein energy drinks, fruit energy drinks. And we're going to go through some of these products. You mentioned them, but you recently introduced a Mutant, an energy super soda, and we're going to talk about a hydro, an energy hydration water, and Cafe Monster. We'll come back to it. With Mutant, it was introduced last September and has a relatively slow, and it's had a relatively slow rollout. I believe you called it a bubble-up strategy or something to that effect, and mainly in convenience stores. In recent months, in the measured channels, it looks like it's slowed or decelerated. Is that an accurate reflection of what Mutant is doing today?
I think pretty much, but you've got to take into account and really put it in context. If you put in context, we launched Mutant, knowing that we did so, off cycle, when it's not a normal time to introduce new soda brands going into winter.
Fall, yes.
We actually decided deliberately to go into selected stores and not to just put it out generally. We also wanted to try and establish a premium price point for it. We weren't trying to just start going out and then immediately price promote it and discount it. So and for the last 6 months, we've really done that. We've established that price point, which is very much closer to the $1.99 price point, which is what we want to do. Now that we're going into summer, and we're going to start. We're starting the price promotions. We're starting to do promotional activities. We've actually switched some of our Monster sort of marketing events like Vans Warped Tour and Monster Jam to some extent. And we put that into the Mutant, so that we'll be using that for Mutant. So we're going to provide marketing support for Mutant. We're going to go out and do price promotions in order to encourage trial. We're going to do sampling. And as we start promoting the brand, we will get trial and awareness going into summer. We're also launching, about to launch a new product in that line, which is a zero-calorie white lightning. So again, we believe that the brand has got really good potential for us. It's got a good niche. If you look at some of the market statistics, it's quite interesting. The brand is clearly positioned against Mountain Dew and against Kickstart, who are sort of trying to get into the energy category from underneath us, so to speak. So, and if you look at the results in Nielsen of those two brands in the last 2 4-week or 4 or 5-week period, as the case may be, both of those brands are down. They're down in the 4-5% in the case of in the convenience channel, which is where we're focused. So Mountain Dew is down 4-odd%, and Kickstart's down 4+% or even more in the convenience channel. And you look at the dollar value of the drop-off in those sales, those products, you look at the dollar value of where Mutant's playing, and it's clear that we're having an impact in that category with that competitor. And that's when I referred to earlier where I think there is strength in their relationship with Coke, because there is a citrus category. We believe we can introduce some fresh products into that category, and we can still get some growth and establish a really nice, good brand in that category. So we're optimistic about the brand going forward.
Is it national distribution now or across the country?
It's national, but not extensive. Okay. But we are rolling it out. We are rolling it out to more of the large format stores, and it is going out. It's now in, I think it was Walmart, so we're going to put it into Walmart. So we're going to roll it out much more extensively now, and we're actually still pretty bullish on the brand.
You started to mention Hydro before, and its launch has been delayed. Why was it delayed, or was it?
It's a unique package, and then we took this unique package, and we also decided not to do it in a sparkling product, which it changes the dynamics when you're actually packaging it and from a production point of view. So we decided to do a still product in this plastic can, and we think it's unique. We think it's important. It's part of what we've done is try and do things that are different and try and do packaging that is different to distinguish Monster, and not just do the same thing. The easiest thing in the world for us would have been to just put in a regular can or just put it in a plastic bottle. And so those were challenges, and just how it ran. There were different production issues that I don't need to go into. But really, we needed to build up sufficient inventory. And when we were sort of planning to launch, we just felt that we didn't have enough inventory. We started to get really good acceptance because we intend to launch Hydro across the general trade. So it's going to have a general full launch. And we were concerned about not having enough backup inventory to follow up once we had filled the pipeline. So we decided to rather, build up inventory, which we've done, and we are currently doing in order to do that. And so we've slated that launch for towards the end of May, and that's pretty much going to go ahead as a general launch. So we're very excited about it.
So you're segmenting the line into hydration, water with energy. Yeah.
That's really our endeavor, our attempt to get water's growing, as you said this morning,
it's just huge.
Particularly enhanced or value-added water. And this really does play in a way in that sector. It's a value-added water with another different twist to it because it adds the energy element to it. But the energy element is probably a lighter energy formula than we normally use in our regular drinks. And the reason for that is we're intending to make this more drinkable and probably to appeal to a broader consumer base in order to try and expand that consumer base for Monster. We're pretty excited about it because it is giving us an opportunity to, again, go completely differently and play in what I'd call the enhanced water segment.
The thought I had while you were speaking is that when energy drinks first came out, they had a big CSD marketplace to source volume from coffee. Right. Here you have a relatively the biggest segment, water, to source volume from.
I agree, but I think you've got to look at it. It's more the enhanced water. I don't think this is going to replace your regular package, just all. But in the enhanced area or value-added water, yes, it's going to play in that section. Obviously, we're looking to put it into that section in the convenience stores as to where we're going to place it. And that's really where we're, again, endeavoring to actually expand the energy use occasion and the demographic of our energy consumer.
Yeah. Just for a second, I know you're coming out with Cafe Monster. You've got Java Monster, Cafe Monster, and now you have Dunkin' Donuts coffee, RTD coffee. How are these positioned? What's the differentiation between them?
I think Dunkin' has come out in a plastic bottle. It just has its own market and its own segment. It's much more closely competitive to Frappuccino in that area. In the case of Cafe Monster, again, we're trying to align that closer to a Frappuccino because that's got a big segment, a big user base, a big consumer base. But again, we have the energy twist to it. But in that particular case, we obviously are looking to have a brand that will appeal probably more to the female consumer, also a lighter energy, so the energy component in it won't be at the same level as in Java Monster. So Java Monster is a regular energy drink. It's in a coffee format, it's milk, but it has the full Monster Energy load in it. This will be a much lighter, more drinkable, be able to, on a broader use occasion, hopefully will attract more female consumers. We're trying to get our calorie count down versus the Frappuccino, but it's going to compete in that market, whereas Java Monster is really competing against the double shot Starbucks in that market. So they're two different markets, both growing really nicely, and so that's the opportunity for us.
Just two more questions on the U.S. before I turn to the international. The energy drink market it's growing globally, it's growing domestically, it's the underlying drivers I see as being intact. How do you see it over the next 4 or 5 years? What are the prospects for energy drinks in the United States?
The fundamentals are still very much intact. And if you look at, and maybe take a step back and look at Europe. And Europe's an older market, energy market, than the U.S. It started in the 87, 86, so probably 10 years before the U.S. And if you look at the market in Europe, it's had periods of more rapid growth, and it's slowed, and then a couple of years, and then it's picked up again. And a lot of that really is linked to innovation, more shelf space, and competitors coming into the market to make it more attractive. If you look at the European market today, it's actually growing. The current last quarter, it's grown pretty nicely according to the Nielsen's in Europe. So we see with the fundamentals being intact, being able to introduce new products. So we're pretty optimistic about it. And, you referred to the slowdown earlier, and there was quite a big slowdown. The principal slowdown happened inexplicably actually in December. And I think all the beverage companies saw that.
In December, yes.
And so the actual category went slightly negative in December. But when we look at the all measured channels that are measured since that time, on a monthly basis in the 4 or 5 week intervals, according to Nielsen, the category is starting to pick up. It was up 0.9 in January, 1.4 in February, 2.6 in March. So there seems to be some momentum going forward. So, we're optimistic, but, your guess is as good as mine. We don't know. But we think that we'll continue to see growth, and I think it'll be a healthy category, particularly as we still have quite a good runway of innovation to come. These are the products we've talked about now. We obviously have some others that we're working on. So, we're quite positive going forward.
You mentioned a new product to me last night.
I'm not sure which one it is. There was a couple I mentioned.
I forgot the name of it. I should have jotted it down. But anyway, you have a lot of innovation coming.
We've got a lot of innovation. I mean, the one thing we've actually done, we've just launched, it's gone onto the shelves of Asda this week, was a product with Hamilton, the Formula One driver. So we've got a product which actually does very well in Europe, which is the Rossi drink with the doctor, who's a very well-known, famous figure in motorcycle racing. But Lewis Hamilton is probably almost the best-known Formula One driver, and Formula One is very big in Europe. So we actually developed a drink together with Lewis, who we have a personal sponsorship arrangement with, and we've launched that. It went onto the shelves of Asda literally in the last day or two. It's going to be rolled out in Great Britain, and in the rest of Europe, we'll probably roll out to about 25 countries by summer.
Final U.S. question. What are the 2 to 3 biggest challenges facing the category going forward? Health and wellness, added sugar, lawsuits. Is there anything that you have to be cautious about on the category?
I think that the health and wellness is an important opportunity for us. And the question is, and the key is how to really capture that. Like everything, people and consumers still, I'm maybe a little bit skeptical, but consumers think healthy but don't act healthy. And the question would be, the challenge would be, how do you develop an energy drink and then basically take a niche healthy product or a healthy formulation and then basically try and extrapolate that and get that to be big enough to make a difference to the brand. So we've seen the organic side. We've seen different things coming onto the market. When you look at them, and in the health food channel, in the whole foods area, they do well. But when you take them into the mainstream, they really just don't seem to have the legs to be sustained. So I think that's a challenge. If we can get that and get a healthy product that is perceived to be healthier, I think it will help the category continue to grow. It's one of the challenges we have to be able to, again, continue to expand it. And on the other side, from the litigation side, we don't really think that that's a major issue. We think that sugar is not a major issue. It's a major issue for everybody. But I think that the energy consumer is probably less affected than some of the other consumers. And then when you look at our portfolio, we have a massive portfolio of zero-calorie products. And we haven't positioned them as diet, but we've had zero. So there's a line of 6 products in Ultra now that are all zero-calorie. So we will continue to do that. Our whole rehab line is 10 calories, so it's also low-calorie.
Let me switch to the international, and I want to dimensionalize it for the audience and for you as well. The U.S. accounts for about 1/3 of the global energy drink market, both in volume and revenue terms, 1/3. So the international energy drink market is at least twice as large as the U.S. The international market expected to grow in the high single digits, at least for the next 5 years. Now that kind of growth makes it one of the strongest growing categories in the global marketplace, beverage categories. Most importantly, your international share is only 1/4 of your U.S. share. You also be leveraging the best bottling and distribution network in the world to get your products to market, the Coca-Cola system, 20-some million accounts. But you still have to execute. With that scenario, what's not to like about that, Rodney? It's a great opportunity. What do you...
Well, we like it.
Okay.
But the international market is sort of a little different to the U.S. market. What happened in the international market, principally in Europe, was we didn't get to that market for a long time, and it started 10 years before the U.S. market. So what happened was, Red Bull was very dominant and really had the major share of that market for a long time. And I think retailers eventually have one product and for whatever reason want an alternative, want an option, whether it's because they see an imbalance of power or negotiating power. And so what happened was this allowed basically store brands to basically take hold in many of the countries in Europe. So if you go to Europe, you'll see a lot of the private label, less expensive energy alternative. The effect of that was that it really did take down some of the premium value in pricing. Red Bull had to come down to try and meet and not have too much of a diversification of its own franchises. So going into the European markets today, you've really got a market that is divided. There is sort of your low price private label, and then you've got the premium brand. So we sort of come in and we're playing in the premium brand area. But that's the one issue we've just challenged we deal with internationally.
That cuts the market in half, doesn't it?
It sort of cuts it. But again, our challenge is now, by broadening it with different products, different types of flavors, we are bringing back, we think, a lot of the consumers to the premium sector from because the lower value sector is very simple. It's a Red Bull wannabe, and it tastes like it, and that's all it is. So I think there is that opportunity. But it's rolling it out, and it's a big market. Internationally, we're just doing it. We're going into the Coke system. We've transitioned in most countries. But as we do it, we obviously, each country and each bottler adapts to the brand differently. Some embrace the brand more readily, some slower. And as we go through this, again, in order to not do it all at once, you can't just take your whole line that we've spent 10, 12 years building up in the US and have it overseas. So you start off with 2 or 3 products in a country, then you go with a third, you introduce more and more. But we see this as the opportunity, because there is an enormous opportunity to improve not only the extent of our distribution and the number of accounts we're in, but also the quality and depth of distribution, and then starting to introduce this broader product line, which again, we think that is very good opportunity for us going forward.
Yeah. We don't have time to go through all the countries, but I know everyone would be interested in what's happening in China. You entered Beijing last fall. and you've been rolling it out to new metro markets. Can you give us just a quick, not a big one, quick update on China?
China's, as you know, is probably the second biggest energy market in the year. In the world. We launched in about September last year in Beijing, as you said. Now, the Coke system, it had 3 bottlers, one of which was big. They've refranchised the big operation, so it's really they've sold off their operation to the other 2 operators. So you have Swire and Kofco, and they really operate through about 32 business units. So we've launched business unit by unit, trying to do it on a rational basis. And we are just over the 50% mark in the number of units, and we probably cover just north of 60% of what we see the main energy market in China. And again, this is as we're rolling it out. So we're looking at probably trying to achieve a full rollout by pretty much by mid-end of summer in China.
That's great.
It's a difficult market, Red Bull, and it's not the Red Bull we are used to. The Red Bull is the Austrian Red Bull. We call it the Western European Red Bull. The Red Bull in China is the Thai family who have the Red Bull brand there. They have a gold can. It's a squat 250 ml can. It's not carbonated, so it has a real Red Bull sort of flavor profile, but it doesn't taste like regular Red Bull. And they've developed a very, very strong hold in that market. They're probably north of 200 million cases, but their price point is at about 6 to 7 RMB retail, which is just basically about $1 or so. So it's a different model. Obviously we're focused on, we're growing, we're getting into the market. It's going to take a lot of effort, but we're very encouraged by the early signs that we've seen. It's just going to be a lot of work, but there's a really big market to the end of the day.
Just 2 more questions on the international. What are the 2 or 3 things you're going to have to do very well to take advantage of this huge international opportunity?
I think probably the most important thing is for us to be able to get alignment with the Coke bottlers and the Coke company, so that all of us actually understand how do we divide up the category and how do you allocate shelf space, cooler space, these sort of things, because we are the Coke energy play. We have this arrangement with Coke, but at the same time they're also in the beverage business and they've got coolers, so everybody's trying to. Unfortunately, the coolers are not elastic, so we'd like to fit a lot more on the shelves. But that's one of the issues, and the challenge is getting everybody focused and firing on the same cylinder to do that. And I think that we're a long way there. I think there are always hiccups, but I think we pretty much are aligned, and I think that things are moving forward in a good way. So it will take time, but I think that we have the opportunity to really be able to utilize this enormous distribution system and work together with them so that we actually both benefit, the system and us will benefit from the opportunity that we see is available.
Do you think you could pass Red Bull globally?
Well, I don't know. But whether we do or don't, I think we'll be, we're very happy with the opportunity we have.
Let me just close with 2 or 3 more questions. Everyone is speculating on what your next steps will be with Monster and your minority shareholder, Coca-Cola. I don't know if you can, any thoughts on that?
You have more insight than I do.
Okay, all right. What really appeals to me, you and your partner, and I've known you since the very beginning, Hilton Schlossberg, have been leading Monster now for 25 years. I know because, as you know, you've said it, we did the due diligence when you bought Hansen's, the predecessor to Monster. The price was $14.5 million, 92 or something. Today, your company is valued at almost $30 billion. You and Hilton have been on one of the best beverage journeys of anybody. And I believe you have been the most successful beverage startup that we've tracked in the last 30 years. When you bought the company in the 90s, did you ever think at that time, did you ever think at that time that you would have reached the heights and achieved what you've achieved?
Yeah, it was, you talk about 14.5 million. That was actually large. You talk about how many employees we had. I was number 13. I mean, we fitted in 3 offices. So it really was. It is something that you just couldn't have imagined. And you know, it was a long road. I mean, we experimented a lot, we launched a lot, we tried a lot.
You failed at the beginning a lot.
I did a lot of stuff, and just you don't know what works and what doesn't work, and for what reason, and what's the right time. So you know, even when we initially started, we launched Hanson's in an 8-ounce can, slim can, and we competed, and we just didn't have a real reason for product differentiation at the time. But you know, things worked out, and at the end of the day, we're very, very focused and happy, and with what we've achieved.
I asked you this question 2 years, in the same closing question. What lies ahead for you in Hilton?
I don't know. You know, you look ahead and you say, well, one day, when are you going to retire? So the only thing I do know for certain is I'm 2 years closer to that date now, and I'm not sure what that date is. But you know, we have fun. I mean, the business is a nice business. The beverage business is a nice business. And particularly being in the side of the business which is really devoted to the sales and marketing side and creating new products is very exciting, and it's very...
And you're very good at it.
And it's, you know, but what's nice about it is you go into a store and you can see your products. When you make a nut or a bolt and it goes into some machine, you never know where you are. You never see it. So this is really a fun business to be in. And you go in and see, and we still go into stores and make phone calls from the stores and bitch at everybody because why isn't our product on the shelf? And but that's the part that keeps you going, you know, that you can continue to be exciting. You continue to say, I've got a new product coming out. We've got others coming out. When you can get a product and you achieve something like we do with, I think, the Hydro line. It's new and it's there. I think it's going to be a great product, and I think that, you know, that sense of achievement is really, really good for us, and we enjoy it. So that motivates us to come to work every day.
Good. I'm now going to open up the questions from the audience. And here's the first one. Can you give examples of how you are growing in food service and fast food restaurants like McDonald's?
You know, food service is a channel that has been improved. Our ability to get into that channel has been improved since we've tied up with Coke. There's no doubt that's been improving. And you know, we are making inroads. It's still a small percentage, but it's a really important area for us to grow. We're doing things now with Dunkin' Donuts and some other people, and we actually think that it's quite opportune for us, but it's going to take some time.
Here's a question on the environment. Do you have an environmentally sustainable program goal for your company? It's really about sustainability and how the company does it.
You know, we obviously do look at these issues, but we pack through and co-pack generally through the bigger companies. The principal packer we have is Coke. And so Coke has its own sustainability programs. So really, we actually work in conjunction with them. Again, I'll go back to what are we? We're really a marketing and sales company. The packing and the sustainability issues are really looked after and really implemented, but pretty much by our production partners.
Okay. This is an interesting question. How big an impact is cold brew coffee or RTD coffee having on your energy drink category, on the category?
Yeah, we don't think coffee is having a big impact on the category. In fact, coffee is growing. So it's really an exciting category, both in respect of traditional coffee and I'd call it the energy coffee part of it, because both have been growing and continuing to grow. So I'm not sure it has an impact. I mean, coffee technically is an alternative to energy. That's coffee. You drink coffee so you can get the caffeine and get the buzz from it. That's exactly what, you know, why most people drink coffee. So we just think that will continue to grow, and it's attractive. Cold brew is still very small, and it's very niche. And you look at it, and I think, again, we need to appeal to a broader consumer base, and I think the broader consumer base is still focused on regular coffee with cream or milk, and that's an indulgent product for them.
Yeah, this is something that it's about positioning. Monster seems to be a rougher, in quotations, brand than Red Bull. Are you not concerned you might be losing female consumers and Red Bull is capitalizing on this position?
I would not be here today if I wasn't a rougher, tougher, in-your-face, aggressive brand. If I was Red Bull, I'd be me too. Red Bull, we see Red Bull as a more sort of exclusive, elite brand they're really sort of a yuppie sort of brand. We're really a Euro sort of type brand. We are an in-your-face, blue-collar brand. You have to stand for something in life or in any industry. So that's what we stand for. That is why our consumer demographic was pretty much primarily males, 18 to 34, but primarily male. But what we've been able to do as we've continued to grow the brand is introduce products that are less formidable, that are sort of less intimidating, and that goes to the ultra line, that goes to the coffee. Everybody drinks coffee. We think that's what we're going to extend further with Cafe Monster, with Hydro. So obviously it's important for us to expand that consumer demographic, and I think that is so. Today, I think there is far more consumers. I think we're still predominantly male, but there are far more female consumers who are in the Monster franchise. One of the other detracting issues is from a female point of view is the size of the can, just the fact that it's a 16-ounce can. But that, again, unless you start switching and going back, we've tried to do some 8-ounce, and it's sort of a real weird thing, but the 8-ounce, people just don't want the 8-ounce. We've had a tough time sustaining it in stores where we've tried to go to it. It's sort of, you're known as a 16-ounce brand, and sometimes you've got to stay with you're true to what you are and who you are. And I think that's important for us, again, while at the same time trying to expand our base to obviously attract more female consumers. That's obviously important, and we're continually re-looking at how do we do that, and we probably can address that with probably a new but smaller package. It's something that we sort of will continue to think about.
Just a couple more questions. How do you feel about the energy pricing environment in the U.S.? Is it getting more competitive, less competitive? What are your thoughts?
I think the environment has been reasonably stable. If you look at some of the brands that have tried to compete on price have not really succeeded. The two largest brands, which is Red Bull and ourselves, which have probably north of 70% share, really compete at a very sort of similar level. We give more value, but the pricing is in that $2 to $3 range. And the brands that have just tried to come in under that and just really are not making a lot of inroads. And the consumer sees the product not as simply as refreshment, or they see the product as giving a benefit. And so they're prepared to pay for that benefit if they feel it's authentic, they feel it's their brand, they like the flavors. We've obviously spent a lot of time ensuring that we try to develop the best flavors we can. And we think that will continue, and that's been strong. And from that point of view, I think Red Bull has been a good competitor in the sense that we've not resorted to simple pricing. You compete in other ways.
I think you answered this question. It's about broadening your target audience to serve more than those 18 to 34-year-old males. And I think you've answered, but do you need to have a brand with a different name for females? And that's...
I don't think so. The Mutant product will probably appeal to a slightly different consumer because it's really a soda, positioned as a soda. But I think our new products will themselves broaden that consumer base. Now, we have some really good product that we bought from the Coca-Cola company. There's an interesting brand in Europe, which is a small brand, which is very much a more female-orientated brand. So we're looking at that brand and seeing how do we expand that, because we're pretty positive about it. And that might be something we would look at introducing here. But again, you just keep diluting your marketing dollars. If you have different brands, you've got to start from square one and just build a brand. I don't think that's something that we would have the appetite for. I think we need to try and get female consumers, more comfortable with the Monster brand.
Last, Mark Hall. It's on Mark Hall. With Mark Hall moving on, and I'm not sure he is moving on completely, but what will be happening?
The last time I phoned about an hour ago, he was at the office.
Yeah. Well, they want to know what's going to be happening with creative.
Mark has been involved in the creative side since the outset. I've worked closely with Mark now for 20 years, been at the company, in fact. And what Mark really loves is the creative side. And I think that's not going to change. I think it's important. I think Mark Astafan came out with a note shortly after we made the announcement, which was actually a very perceptive note by him, because what Mark loves is creating ideas, creating the packaging, dealing with the artwork, etc. And that's exactly what he's going to continue doing. What Mark was just basically was getting to a point that he didn't want to continue doing it, was to deal with the day-to-day operational factors that put pressure on him to deal with 100 decisions a day. And in fact, that detracted from his ability to really get focused on where his strengths were. I actually think this is an opportunity to really get Mark more focused on the strengths and the areas where we will continue to work with him. We have other people involved in creative. I will stay involved in creative with him. And we will support the marketing side with other people in the company. So I don't see this as a major change of direction or a major change in our ability to continue to innovate.
Yeah, there were just, and this last batch that came out, there were 2 more questions, so Mark, so they've been answered. Last question, we're running out of time here. Are there any plans to enter Coca-Cola's fountain and vending distribution systems?
Ask Coke. I'd love to be in their fountain systems. Fountains are a challenge because, it's a question of quality. It's a question of how the syrup goes out. You're dealing with an energy drink where you want to measure your actual servings. So that's a sort of a bit of a problem for us. I have a concern about the premium image for it, and there's a debate because some people say a fountain drinker is not a ready-to-drink, a packaged drinker, and you're not going to change. You're not taking the market down, but I'm not sort of sure. On vending, we clearly are working with Coke. We are getting into vending. That's another channel for us that is expanding. We're doing quite nicely in vending, and that is a great opportunity for us to go into the Coke machines here and internationally with the Coke system.
Rodney, welcome back. Thank you for giving us another wonderful, wonderful interview. It's always a pleasure to have. We want you back again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much, Mike.